It's been a nightmare over here, but I have to do this story because it's so Gen X and beyond. So if you lived through Gen X, you know this conduct from school, okay? Go back in your brain. Remember how like junior high was and maybe into high school and some even earlier than that. Um, and then the frat house culture, okay? Just keep it all together. And then this is them as an adult. This is them as an adult, okay? New Jersey police chief accused of spiking coworkers' coffee, pooping on the floors, and sticking hypodermic needles into fellow officer. Okay, for most of these like on the floor crap or anything like that, literally speaking, this conduct is typically done by men. And any person that tried to flip a story on that on someone else, it was actually from that other person. But men can say anything and then everybody runs with it. But that's been their conduct for decades and decades. But it's interesting. This story's so bad. The hypodermic needle thing I brought up one time because my friend was saying that somebody else was doing this to somebody at a concert and I didn't visually see it, but it's almost just, thinking about somebody doing that, how crazy. But apparently there's a bunch of guys that be doing that kind of crap. So apparently this guy. It says the chief actions not only failed to meet the standards of professional conduct. No, I think that's the professional conduct that's been going on for decades. And it's just the nobody talks about it thing. I don't know, but also appeared intended to humiliate me and other victims. Yes, so that was the purpose of the frat house thing, right? We're here to I shouldn't say we, but everybody that was partaking in this type of conduct was, yeah, it's about humiliating everybody, and they think it's funny. The joke is on you, right? But it's bizarre to see this in adult because I don't know, but that's just what's going on, you guys. So I've been talking a lot about it. I never got to any like level of this, but you see other people doing this, particularly men. Men have been the worst on this because they're the ones that started it, I'm sure. Several officers have filed notices against Robert Farley. You're not Chris Farley, the police chief of North Bergen Police Department, alleging harassment and inappropriate behavior. Farley has fostered a workplace environment characterized by inappropriate behavior and so-called practical jokes that are demeaning. I just found one on Craigslist today, which was crazy. It's funny to read, but at the same time, the person that's doing it is ultra creepy. So what did they say? It was so crazy. I was just looking for boxes because eventually we're gonna have to move. So I was like, does anybody have any free boxes so I don't have to go pay for a whole bunch of them? And I find this ad. I know, it's like, how can a box ad go wrong for free boxes? Well, this one. They go, moving boxes, ignore the labels. And I'm like, well, what does it say? Is it for some other product? I was thinking of that. I have a lot of Home Depot moving boxes, size small and medium, free to whoever can use them. And I was thinking, oh, cool. And then heads up, they're all labeled their real contents, quote unquote, porno. Because I thought it would be funny, a funny bit for the movers. I could tell you the movers don't think it's funny. They probably think this dude's such a creepazoid. Who's it funny to, right? Only the person doing it. And they think this is hilarious. I was just like, what the hell? And it's somebody out in Burbank, actually. So I was like, yeah, it's probably some comedian. We could go on a list of like who. There's one just recently in trouble, and he went into rehab. And I was joking. I said that it was probably him, his leftover boxes after going into rehab, and he's saying it's a joke, but it really wasn't. I don't know, but yeah, I happened to run across that today. This is the practical jokers where it's like only funny to you, only funny to you. That's creepy because why would I want to go pick up boxes from some dude that did some garbage like that? Because, just that. Some other dude would be, oh, yeah. So, hey, guys, there's a whole bunch of boxes that say porno on it. I would do, the only time I would do a thing like that, I was like thinking about it. I was like, okay, it's not like it's so, beneath me. But, like if it's a bunch of cruise ship people that are totally annoying the crap out of me, but then you already know if I do that, then they're going to target the hell out of me. Like women can't get away with this kind of crap. Because then they're going to go, oh, we're going to get her. Let's arrest her. She's a prostitute. Blah. You know what I mean? Women can't get away with these kind of jokes. It just won't land right. Okay. The township of North Bergen, which oversees the police department, denied the allegations and said the case has been referred to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office. A New Jersey police chief has been accused by several officers of harassment and inappropriate behavior. Robert, the chief of North Bergen Police Department, is the focus of several notices to sue that were submitted by officers to the township of North Bergen, which the first step in filing a complaint against an employee in the state, according to the documents obtained by People. Farley has fostered a work environment characterized by inappropriate behavior and so-called practical jokes that are demeaning, demoralizing, and targeted. And guess how he's going to treat the public, right? So the way he views things is going to heavily skew how they prosecute cases and go after people. So these are the guys that you call on scene and go, some guy just pulled his pants down and showed me his thing. He's going to be the one that goes, oh, what's the big deal? I do that. That's exactly why that's going on. So every time we call and it's like, oh, some guy just broke into my home, the officer, there's no crime here. That's the officer that breaks into women's homes. That's exactly it, you guys. Farley has fostered a workplace environment characterized by inappropriate behavior. Yeah, so nobody's going to get arrested under him. And so-called practical jokes. And these actions not only fail to meet the standards of professional conduct, but also appear intended to humiliate me and other victims. Yes. Yes. I mean, that's the purpose of being a practical joker, right? It's always best when you do the joke on yourself, but it's not that often. But you do get the most laughs on those ones. But a town spokesperson in this statement, the township of North Bergen has full confidence in Chief Robert Farley's leadership. Blah, blah, blah. We strongly deny these false, outrageous allegations made by disgruntled officers who are resorting to attacking the reputation of a dedicated public servant to further their own selfish goals. In order to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest and because we are fully confident that these claims will be proven false, we have proactively referred them to Hudson County Prosecutor's Office for review. And that'll be landed on another desk of another asshole that probably does the same crap, but he's going to go, what? Yeah, honestly, I don't know. The township of North Bergen, which oversees the police department, did not immediately respond to People's request for comment on Thursday, the 27th. Okay, so the New Jersey Attorney General's office told People in a statement that it cannot comment on any proposed or requested supersession of a law enforcement agency. The notices accused Farley, who was sworn in as a police chief in February 2024, of interfering with health and safety standards at the office by adding in prescription medication, including Adderall and Viagra, in the office coffee, which caused staff to inadvertently experience side effects of these substances without their consent. What the hell? Subjected to harassment and intimidation, the notices claim. And he would allegedly take a you-know-what on the floor in front of his entire office staff and leave feces on the bathroom floor with the intention of having someone unknowingly step on it. That guy is out of his freaking mind. What the hell is that? I mean, that's kind of up and beyond some other stories, but that one just in front of the staff, he just does it. Farley was also accused of ordering officers to complete his daughter's homework. I feel sad he has a daughter. Oh my God. Save her. Get her out. Which was described as humiliating. He also allegedly once jabbed another officer in his genitals with a hypodermic needle. What the hell? What the hell? The notices claim he would also damage the items in his office, including a TV and a picture frame, in fits of rage. Okay, this fits somebody else completely that was in the media for a while. Yes, that's the socio. That's literally the socio. We know this. Okay, so those are the ones that would do this conduct. To this extent, like, this is like far on the spectrum, like way far on the spectrum. Okay, as well as other officers' personal property by breaking pens, smearing ink on the uniforms, vehicle door handles, and office equipment. The harassment also extended to their families. Officers claim saying that Farley would deliver inappropriate items to the officers' homes, including gay pride flags, dildos, and masturbation cream, which were seen by the officers' loved ones. Farley earns more than $228K a year, according to pension records obtained by New Jersey Advanced Media, which first reported the news. He heads a department with more than 120 officers per the outlet. Honestly, doesn't this remind you guys, Gen X? So we're speaking of Gen X. Doesn't this remind you of shit that we did? Not we. I didn't do that, but it's not like shocking in the sense that if you go back to early Gen X and their high school, college days and this thing, that they would do some bullshit like that. Yes, this was like the norm. I don't know how old this guy is, but holy crap. I'm just like thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I could totally imagine. If you said this was like 1992, it'd be like, what? Everybody's doing that kind of crap. There's practical jokes, right? We're just joking around. We're sending this to somebody's house. We're doing this. You wouldn't even flinch about it. You wouldn't even file a report on it because it's so like they all been doing that. Like remove 2025 and go right to 1992. Yes. And I'm like, oh man, yeah. These are the people that didn't fix their shit. Fix their shit. I couldn't even imagine doing that today. Like, the only people that, if you were to do some crap like that, you have to be, like, really close friends and you guys, like, chronically mess around with each other and joke around. But even then, I don't know. But if you guys are going back and forth and it's between you guys, yeah. But you're talking about workplaces and they're just randomly doing this to people at workplace. I know. No, that's too out there. That's why I was kind of shocked when they were talking about like 90210 that one girl was G-pantsing people on the set. I was like, for me, that's a little bit too much because we shouldn't even have been doing that in junior high. But like, know them and it's not okay. But I can't imagine going into a work environment, as an adult and just doing that. I don't know. Because at some point, we're like, yeah, probably shouldn't do that. And I got it done to me too. So it was like, this thing, but I was kind of like, yeah, like, why are we the ones that like stopped, this behavior when it should have never happened? But then there's these people who continue on until they're like 80 doing it and see nothing wrong with it. It's like, oh no, I see something wrong with it. I wouldn't defend it. It's like, I was trying to analyze it, like why it was done, why was it normalized? And then these portions where like, there's this group of people that like don't do that stuff anymore. And then there's probably a group of people that never did that before. Like that never did, that's not our thing, but that never did that before or took any part of any type of thing like that. And then you have those that go to the far extreme that like they do that, but then and then they continue on until they're, till they die and they see nothing wrong with it. This guy, if you told him right now, he's like, what? It's like, you don't see your problem, like you're harming other people. It's like you have no, like you have no soul, like you have no connection that what you're doing. Well, the reason why they're doing it is to harm other people. So you can't say, oh, you don't know that you're harming other people. That is the purpose. It's like at some point you go, this ain't right. You know, like it's just not there. It's void, right? It's void. Any comments to this? In my opinion, practical jokes are perpetrated by sadistic people. Well, a lot of people fall on the spectrum of being a sadist. Okay, so you probably too have sadistic tendencies. It's just that when we're talking about stuff, we're talking about spectrums. And I go, yeah, there's kind of this side where it's like they lean on being sadistic, but being sadistic doesn't mean you're out killing people either. Then you have those people wanting to do massive torture, like beyond, consensual things or anything like that. There's kind of a level of health, like you could say healthy and balance. Not that that is ever really good, but it could be used in a positive. But okay, so it says this guy has a warped brain and should not hold a position of authority over anyone or anything. But can't you tell, like, he would be like the top student in a college, in a fraternity? Like, that's the guy that they go, he's our favorite guy, and then they promote him, and then they give him all the best jobs. Like, literally, that's the guy. And then they go, a process of elimination revealed this to be an actual smear campaign. No. Ew. What? Wait, what's the source of your statement? If he's been cleared as innocent, shame on people for ruining this article after the fact. Wow, not really sure what I posted that was offensive and had to be deleted. This guy needs to be removed from his position. I don't believe that he did what they say. I think it's just a few officers that have a problem with him that made up everything. Why would that be? He's pretty common. The fact that the city is calling all the officers liars is astonishing. This is like the sexual assault cases. Well, yeah. Well, who's doing the sexual assault cases, right? So this is why we're targeting this area. Because the police, right? So when your officers are this much of a pile of shit, how do you think they're going to react to the public coming to them complaining about the same thing, right? Some guy just took a needle and stabbed me in the ass. They're just going to be like, well, he says she, whatever, because he does it, right? The response to it is based on that, not by law. The response is based on his personal problems. And so you need to tackle them because you can't prosecute cases that can be prosecuted because they're cock blocking it, basically, because they're fine with it. They do the conduct, the assault. So what he's saying is he's a rapist because he doesn't believe in agency and he just does stuff. So he would have an issue with any person coming in saying, I got sexually assaulted. It's all connected. So that's why we target that area. So, yeah, I mean, for an officer here to say some guy can break into your home is just beyond. I can't believe it happened. It totally did. And I heard him and I was just like, he's lucky he's not at my door saying that because no, I would call 911 on them. But that's what happened because what they're doing is they're looking at it from their own point of view that I don't see a problem with me trying to break in your home because I think I have the right to do this crap, yet it's against the law. And so they don't care about the law. They're promoting their own rapist conduct onto us as a man on a woman. I have the right to invade your privacy. I have a right to do that. That's what they're arguing. So common sense, right? If you had it. But they go, people say what happened and yet no one believes them. These are some outrageous stories to make up. They're not outrageous to me. It's pretty common. Like the conduct has happened throughout Gen X. That's all I know. When I'm reading it, I'm like, I feel like we're back in school. Like, yeah, it was pretty bad. And my parents engaged in practical jokes with other families. Not to that extent, but it was sort of like the norm of 1980s. I would say their level in like the 1980s was probably more tame than the like for the kids in the 1980s to the 1990s. But my parents' version of this was a tad bit more mild, but they may have done those things. I didn't ask them anything about military or any of that crap. So they may have done these things, and they were the we don't speak about our past type of people. So also, whenever the pranks that was delivered to their houses came from, there are records by those vendors which will track back to the chief's credit card. Yeah, well, if you paid all credit, but yeah, I mean, if you're sending and mailing things like that, yeah, that was actually really common in the 80s. That's what they were doing. Our families were doing some crap back and forth. But they had one with a pumpkin. This pumpkin, it was so stupid. But there was a pumpkin when they had this gigantic freaking pumpkin that was like the size of a human. And they thought it would be funny to put it at somebody's doorstep. So they put it at the doorstep so you can't get around it. And then somebody else put it at somebody else's house. So they were doing pranks like that. Like I said, it's not like, to the level of this dude, but they were doing stuff like that, and everybody was getting mad because you couldn't like move it. It was so huge. It was heavy. It was all kinds of things. And they did things like that. But if you read the story in our hometown about the judge and his bullshit with zucchinis, so it is from that era. It is from I think it's just been an ongoing thing throughout history. From the who is it? The silent generation. I don't know what happened prior to the silent generation. I don't know if they were all these massive practical jokers and did this whole horrible thing to harm other humans. I mean, I guess they did because they had slaves and everything else. But I mean, in this format. And then it went through. So I was looking at it, and then the baby boomers were going on like this. And then the 80s, this went on, and the kids were like, it's almost like it was like snowballing where it gets worse and worse and worse where the kids are doing stuff. And then in Gen X's 1980-90 portion, it was horrible. Horrible, like the word horrible. And then at a point, I'm just like, you just don't, you're like, I don't even think it's funny anymore. You go through this thing and you're like, how did this even happen? Oh, because generations prior promoted it. It's like you promote one thing. If you promote that pumpkin thing, you're going to be promoting, someone's going to always take that one step further thing. And that's kind of what happened. It was like one step further, one step further, one step further. And then you have Animal House. And then you have this, you have that, you have that. And then you get this guy because he's from that generation from way back when. That ongoing thing. And they keep saying, oh, everything's just jokes. I went up your skirt. I groped your tit. It's just a joke. I took a picture while you were asleep. I pulled your top up. It's like, oh, phew. Yeah, but where did the kids learn that? Oh, from your daddy right here. So the daughter here, I'm kind of scared, Daddy be going on like that? Did he do that at home? Do you think dad took a you-know-what in front of his daughter at home? Like, the daughter's in danger. Like, honest to God, when you look at the story, the daughter's in danger. Nobody thinks about it, but she is. He doesn't believe in agency. That's the type of guy that would do some crazy stuff to his daughter, okay? So it's telling you a lot about him. So then, okay, the guy made $228K a year and acted like this. Yeah, the more you make, the more worse they get. Haven't you noticed? Look at the media. When you start getting into the billionaire number, like, you think this is bad. Okay, so he seems like a human terror. Yeah. Like, where's the most criminals his office was arresting? I feel sorry for his family, and I'm sure they've seen some things. Well, yeah, I would have CPS. I don't know, man. That thing, not to mention the public humiliation. I hope he loses his pension. If not, I hope every single person he harasses sues him and they get some of it. He's not deserving of a penny. Worse than the criminals. Give me a break. Those animals are bottom feeders. What the hell? Who runs around? No, if you run around sticking hypodermic needles in anyone, you should go to prison. Like, what? The fact that anybody does this still blows my mind, but and what is the purpose of that, you know? The purpose, wait, he says, okay, I think the needle being shoved into one person's genitals really takes the cake. How has this man not been terminated and arrested? Again, I pulled up the needle story from another thing and it popped up. Where did it pop up again? There was another story of somebody doing it and I brought it up and I was like, isn't that crazy? I don't know how common it is though, but it popped up and it was almost unbelievable. Like when my friend's telling me, I mean, I've never had her like just make up a story. It's just, I didn't see it and it seems unbelievable because I can't imagine somebody doing that on that level, you know? Guy apparently didn't know. She said he was standing there and he didn't even move. And the guy was just taking a needle to his back and going bang, 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 you know? I'm like, that's crazy and that's scary. And how many idiots are doing this? Like, you have to question it. The fact that anybody ever does that. But apparently he's one of those. So, yeah, it's just, yeah, that's a total sadist. If you look at American history, all these guys were big time sadists. Like, they're into mass torture. Like, mass torture. You know, when you put it all together. He has the right job, right? Because isn't that what they wanted to do? Is just torture the public. Yeah, and then when we're talking about the gang culture, so all that kind of goes together. It's just all together. It isn't, oh, we only have a gang culture. Oh, we only have, you know, misogynist. I go, it's all together. It's the problem is together. It's called a personality disorder, by the way. There's actually a clinical thing to this. Like, there's a clinical thing to this. This is the guy that they say is the definition of a man. Yeah, pretty much. He's a funny guy. I can tell you right now, some people are going to say I was not really that funny in school. I'm just being as honest as possible because it's like, but that's what happened. I was like, that was the environment and the environment promoted it. And then it was hella wrong. It was like, what? I mean, even when people are pulling up like the, like child nursery rhymes and everything's so dark and evil. Like everything in the childhood portion is like creepy, dark, evil, just everything wrong. Like everything wrong. There's nothing really wholesome about it. It takes a lot of good reflection to sit there and go, okay, I could remember all this stuff. You have no words. I have a lot of words for this. He looks like that guy, though. Like, look at his face. What in the hell? One of his eyes is higher than the other. He is not to be trusted. Nobody... They just posted this today. How would they just post it today and you guys are saying he was cleared as innocent? I have no idea. It's just somebody... It's probably him. It's like, I would never do these things. No, I was saying when I was catching these guys being bad, it was due to a higher up person, and it makes sense. So like, if you're working at this guy's, you know, in his unit, in his little animal house. It says turning the department into animal house. There you go. They're going by the upper person, right? So if your upper head person, the chief guy is that person, and you get these newbies, and he's like, okay, go break into all these people's homes, because I told you to. They're going to do it. I trust they're going to do it. I wouldn't, but they're going to tell them to do it, and that's kind of what happened. So I was trying to go at the people that were promoting it on the newbies. I mean, I don't know how new they are, but they were definitely under, you know, beneath these guys. So I was like, oh, okay, so we have a couple people here. So it's like, it would be like 2 or 3 of these jerks that are above the newbie guys. And then, so they're just doing what they're being told, you know, and they may do it because they know if they don't, then these guys are going to do crap like that, right? So then they when they want to go report on them, then they start retaliating, and then they lose their jobs, and then you get these lawsuits. Like right now they're calling them all liars, right? They called us liars for outing their gang member crap and their rapist gangs and all that. But it was true. And they, that's really, that's how that domino thing is going on here. It's just, that's why it's bad. You have to get rid of the head honcho that's promoting that stuff. And then there was probably other people in this 120 employees that were also doing stuff, and they wouldn't be all the people involved in the lawsuit maybe, but they would be part of that conduct and making it a nightmare to go into work. It just is a nightmare to go into work, and you can't really fight it because your head guy is thinking he's John Belushi. I don't know, something something over here. Like, they just presented like sociopathy is the greatest thing on earth. And all these men are heavily deranged on TV and in real life. And that's just what happened. What year was that movie? It was in the 1978. So I was just barely alive. I was just barely alive, and I was thrusted into this nightmare of a universe. And it's from that era. I mean, this obviously was an ongoing problem because it then becomes a movie, but it's this conduct. And then they kind of glorified it, and then they're perma F at a 1962 college. Back history, so it is kind of interesting. So the genesis for Animal House lay in Miller's own experiences. Okay, experiences. So it means that he was already going through this before this movie was made. At Dartmouth undergraduate from 1959 to 1963. So this conduct was way back in history. And then the title reference to the fraternity model after Alpha Delta, a now unrecognized fraternity of which Miller was a brother. That's what I'm saying. It's basically like organized crime, white gang member housing. For some reason, like they present like street gangs as a whole different thing. But yet if you're rich, white, and crusty, and you're doing this conduct amongst each other and creating these little gangs, and rich gangs, basically, because then they take over the planet, that they were doing this evil conduct to everybody. And then how do you think they're going to relay this into law? Into law. Like, we're talking about, like, the street criminals that you guys are talking about, like, when you want to differentiate them, they're not in positions of power. They're trying to fight the power, okay? And then they get into positions of power and become the same pile of shit. But I'm saying, in context, the pieces of shit that are abusive piles of you-know-what are now in the system, like the White House, in government positions, in law, being lawyers, doing things to change and manipulate, the laws to where we all get harmed, because this is their normal. And so that's what I was looking at. I go, yeah, I remember when I went to the frat row, it was awful. I never really detailed all the bad of that situation. It took a while to kind of like take that in. And no, honey, that thing, like that thing was predatory. Their whole MO was to get as many women to rape and get drunk and knock them out. I go, I literally have video of it somewhere where they were just pounding my friend, and I'm kind of horrified. Like, as I'm taping it, I'm kind of horrified because I was like, I could never drink like that. And that's insane. And she's like half my weight. Okay. And I'm looking at this, and, and then eventually she falls out a window. Right. And, she wasn't harmed or anything in that, but there was some other harms in that. And there's a lot in it, and I just kind of put it aside. We taped this thing. I was like, yeah, it was Animal House crazy, and we don't even know those guys. We didn't go to UC Davis. And I go, oh, it's interesting. They preyed on us to get us to go to their frat party, and how terrible this is. And then it pops up in the case with the I Like Beer dude. The I Like Beer. Okay, where he was trying to act all innocent and everything. I go, no, that was the whole purpose of the frat houses, was to rape a bunch of girls. I mean, it really was. What was their other reason for having these parties? So they try to manipulate this whole topic, and then they started having political idiots coming out here saying this is not a thing. I go, I don't know what crack you guys are on, but why were they having drunk parties like that? There's no consent. You can't consent to it. And that's what people were talking about. They would come back from these parties and everybody got raped from the parties. But you couldn't say much about it because everybody's like, oh, you went there to party. It's like, yeah, but nobody wanted to hook up with anybody. Just because you want to go have fun with your friends and hang out with some people doesn't mean you're expecting this bullshit. But yeah, there was a lot to it. UC Davis has a lot of karma to be had. Yes. And, you know, having videotapes being stolen or anything like that, you know, it feels like somebody's just trying to cover up or something. I may have it still, but if I don't, I have an idea where it is. There's only two possibilities, you know. But yeah, it's pretty bad because then it would expose like who was there. I'm just trying to find out which fraternity it was, just from my own thing to let you guys know what happened here. Because there's a deeper story to that one even. Like to that one even. And it's not good. It could be worse if we find out that we were minors, under 21. We might have been 21. I don't think we were, but we might have been. So I don't want to throw that out there. But that could be the other addition in the story too. Well, the kid that tried to stab me with the pencil, he eventually went on the football team. But that guy, he's not even the worst of the story. He's just one of the early ones. And that conduct right there was in, had to be 4th or 5th grade. It was 4th or 5th grade. And so he's already, I want to sharpen a pencil and try to stab you, which would be no different than taking a hypodermic needle and stabbing someone, right? It was already seen as a little kid. That's the area that we're talking about. I go, this conduct that you're seeing here is from childhood. It's from childhood. That's why you keep talking about them being stuck at age 5. 5 is a generic number. They're stuck in between age 0 to like 8 or 10. But it's like the hardwired conduct is from there. But back then, when they were raising boys, they neglected them. So they would say, boys will be boys, right? So meaning, don't stop them from being a psychopath. And so it's hardwired and they're not developed properly. That's why, I mean, that's what we're saying, because if I were to run around and do that at that age, I would have been busted, man. They would have got me and I would have been thrown into like some like rehab school or some military. I don't know. They would have done something if I was running around stabbing everybody, because like that's seen as, oh, only guys do this. Honestly, that's what happened. So this is hardwired. It is a perma F thing, and that's why they don't have a cure for it. So I was like, yeah, no, they need more research on that. But we know where it came from. It didn't come from because some adult watched Animal House. Animal House is a product of sociopathy in children. Basically, I mean, when you go down to the root of that, it's like the outcome of the child that's effed in the head with their scrambled egg brain and doing that. And for us, it's the environment. Because I had to look at, you know, oh, how do we get from this point to that point? Oh, the environment. Okay, my dad's totally fine with this type of shit. You know what I mean? Like you're going like this and then it's kind of enabled and then the rest of the public enables it and then the kids go like this. Somehow, though, in my story, there's kind of a development that happened, because if it didn't, I would still be doing this, right? I would still be running around, you know, I never stabbed anybody with a pencil. I never stabbed anybody with anything. But running around with this conduct, right? I would still be doing that. But there was something that stopped it. And I think it's important to know that, because maybe that's the key and clue for people that are far on the spectrum of being a sociopath. A is PD. This is antisocial behavior. So I was like, yeah, there was, you know, I developed empathy. I developed, like, I care about my friend. I did care about my friends even doing this bullshit, but there was some sort of disconnect in it. And then maybe an underlying thing is because they're so shitty at times that it's almost like, who cares? Like there is a level of not caring in it. But I didn't want to really hurt my friends. So I didn't do anything to this extent. Like, I didn't do anything like that. It's like, I think it's funny to throw a key out into a hallway and lock them out and humiliate them and let somebody find them because it's hilarious. Practical joke, right? But it's not funny to them. And so I was just kind of looking at that going, because when you're looking at it, you're not seeing it as, oh, someone's really going to get injured in this process. But as I'm hindsighting it, I was like, oh my God, what if some adult seen that and they kidnapped her or something? You know what I mean? Like, your brain isn't, quite there yet as a kid versus now. But if I were to do that now, I should be totally arrested. Like, what the hell? To some minor, but we were both minors. Again, it's, there's a lot to be said on that topic. We're not dealing with the same brain as an adult when you're dealing with a kid. And then it gets a little funny right there because they're not fully developed yet. And then, so you're seeing what's not developed yet in this area. That's just my opinion on it. Because when they're talking about stuff like that, there's a reason why they say you can't drink till you're 21. I mean, because you're still developing. And even then, people want to argue 21's too young. But then some want to argue it's too old. But technically, they're too young because you don't really fully, I guess they say you don't fully develop until you're around 26, 27, around that time right there. That's usually when you start going, everything's fucked. Yeah, I mean, you come to a thing right around that age versus 21. 21, I still feel I had a kid brain. But I was still pretty mature at 21. But I still feel there was still development happening until around when you start skidding into almost 30. Because that's when you start going, oh my God, I was massively abused. Oh my God, I'm sorry. Did we do, you start doing this thing. So you start to get more information on the world. But no, it was not present when we were growing up. And I was like, that's horrifying. That's horrifying. What if I was running around still going on like that? But we aren't. So I go, yes, there's something in the we aren't part. And I'm trying to look at the we aren't part. Because the we aren't part means there were some additions there to make me a more healthy person today than if that part wasn't there. And that's what's happening. Like, that part's not there with this dude. So yeah, it needs a lot of research. What was it different? It's hard to dissect because it's like, what's the differentiating things? Well, number one, I'm not a man, so they never promoted me to just run off and do all this horrible shit to people and say, well, that's just what, she does. That is one of the worst things that's going on. So it can't go on. So that falls into neglect. It falls into neglect because you're just like, yeah, do whatever. Everybody needs to look at themselves. Honestly, you don't have to be in the open in public saying this stuff. I'm just doing it for the sake of, so people could understand this a little bit better. And it's not going to make you look good because people are fake and they're not going to be honest about themselves because no one's perfect, right? But there's a level of human fuckery that happens, and it's like, there's a middle ground. Like, people make mistakes. People do this. They're ignorant. They're this, they're that. But then I was like, but then it chips over on the spectrum. And I keep saying on the spectrum, I go, but when should we be really alarmed on the spectrum? Because I think a lot of people can fall here doing practical jokes. Like, they wouldn't do this, but they could fall here on the practical joke level. But at the same time, when you're doing practical jokes, who's the expense? You're doing it to humiliate other people. It is. That's just what you're doing. And then they'll argue, oh, it's not sexual. It's just meant as a joke. But that is the whole thing about sexual assault, is it's not about sex. It's about power and control and humiliating and overpowering your victim. So the mindset was in that. And Yeah, so just a lot. It's really a complex area, and it's really hard. You can't change these guys. Every time we talk about this topic, I don't know who the hell these guys are. They come out here like, we're for women, and then they're chronically degrading us. I go, what type of joke is this? What kind of joke is this? It's a joke. Like, a whole bunch of them keep doing it. I go, we could sit here all day and analyze every other word that you say degrades women. The way how you view other men to women, etc., etc. And those will be the same guys going, no, we respect women. I'm like, okay, so yeah, it's that guy, or woman. I've heard women do it too. In fact, a lot of us have used terms that are degrading to women. Like, in an example was in sports. Like, it was just a really generic thing. I used to follow this other girl. She did sports, a certain sport. And one day she's talking, she uses all the wrong words, right? All the words that everybody gets in trouble for. And I've used a couple too myself. So, it's not that. But one day she goes, stop, something like throwing like a B word. And I'm like, do you know what you're saying though? Like, you're degrading yourself trying to degrade somebody else for, you're saying that they throw like a woman. And I was just kind of analyzing it. I go, that's interesting because, and she doesn't know she's doing it. Like, it's so common talk that it's hardwired. It's just it's now a passive saying. And I go, yeah, can you dissect that? And why would you even say it? People just say things, they don't know why they're saying it. It's just a common talk. It's just like, what are you saying? And yeah, it was interesting. And and then the minute I was like going on that, everybody's doing it. Men chronically do it to other men, to degrade other men, to say that they're like a woman. And so the speech is really bad. And what it means, and yeah, so I chronically pulled out. I love getting these hip hop guys because they're like, every other word they're degrading women. They're like, we fought so hard. I go, oh, you only fought for yourself, dude. I don't you didn't fight for women. I was like, you wouldn't be the first person in line for women's rights on any fucking level. So don't say you fought for women of color. You never did. Can you show me where you did that? Never. Okay, so that was just for you. That was a men of color movement. I was like, that's really what it was. So I was like, yeah, to call it what it is. It's like this weird perception problem. So identifying that, I think, is important. You just can't be calling women liars and doing this crap when you made it legal to rape a bunch of women. I don't know. It's just that thing. But yeah, but it's just the way they speak to other women. So this guy definitely is that thing. No, I don't think they made that up. I think he's pretty common. I think he is pretty common. I don't know about the needle stabbing thing, but I think he is pretty common. So it's funny, the outrage, but if you actually like sit down with people and go, did you ever do any of this frat house conduct as a kid in school? Oh, yeah, actually. Yeah, I was like, yeah, you're going to have those people. That's what we're talking about.